Hey everybody, I decided to do the Behemoth Mission versus a Sentinel with my newly painted X-Men warband. And you can see the Sentinel is deployed in the left-hand corner, and the X-Men are in this warehouse here on the right. And it is the 10-point battle like normal with the Behemoth, and we will see how it goes. It is currently raining, so hopefully you don't hear that too much in the background. But let's see if the X-Men can take down a Sentinel. The Sentinel activates first. He moves his 14 inches. And he tries to raise shields on himself and critically fails, dealing himself 1 damage. And then he successfully shoots a beam at Wolverine, and that was a missile power. And he is going to be an adaptive, the Sentinel is, so he can pick 2 powers each turn. And he did 1 damage unsaved to Wolverine. The Sentinel then charges, and a 10. He actually gets in with Wolverine. Right there. Wolverine was able to do a bleeding result and 2 damage on the Sentinel in close combat, and the Sentinel was able to do 1 unsaved damage and broken ribs on Wolverine, and then they get separated. Now, of course, all the X-Men go, so Cyclops fired twice at the Sentinel saved both of them. Jean Grey is also an adaptive, so she healed Wolverine, activating his regeneration, and also gave him a time slip, so that he's ready to damage the Sentinel more, or maybe be more durable. And Professor X gave Colossus a time slip and a protect. Now let's see if he can get Colossus an extra activation by rolling higher than his willpower. He does, so Colossus is going to charge. A 3, that is not going to get it in, unfortunately. The rest of the X-Men activate. Honestly, I'm going to keep Storm unactivated. She's not going to do anything. She is an ordnance in this list, and I don't want the Lightning Strike to hit Wolverine and Colossus as well. Nightcrawler is also going to stay back because he's just a fast with extreme mobility, so he's really more of an objective capper. He's not really bound to fight this Sentinel unless we buff him. Cyclops charges in, Colossus. Colossus charges in and is able to remove 1 hit point from the Sentinel, but the Sentinel does nothing back to him. The Sentinel activates the beginning of each game turn, so he activated. He chose to heal himself. He did lose a hit point from the bleeding. You can assume that's like fluids draining or electrical discharge or whatever that he had to heal. So his systems healed that successfully, and he removed his bleeding, and he also got a protection. So he raised his save up by 2, and he now has his shields up. For his final action, he charged Colossus. He was able to do 1 unsaved damage to Colossus, even after the time slip, but it was a 1 on the wound chart roll, and Colossus did nothing to the Sentinel. Alright, so Jean Grey moves up, and she's got line of sight to Wolverine now. She is able to give him a time slip, and she also works him into a frenzy with aura, so now he's got aura. Professor X tries to mind control Colossus into a charge, but fails, but he does succeed in giving him a protect and a time slip once again. Then we have Cyclops, who shot twice at the Sentinel, and the Sentinel critically saved it. So far he's being pretty resilient. Nightcrawler's still going to sit back for now, and so will Storm, but we're going to charge in with Wolverine and Colossus. If you recall, Jean Grey just worked Wolverine into a frenzy. He's got aura. He charges into the Sentinel. He doesn't actually do any damage to the Sentinel, but the aura in his frenzy did deal a bleeding to the Sentinel, so that was good. And Colossus charges into the Sentinel. He does nothing to the Sentinel. The Sentinel currently has a save of 7, and he manages to do 1 unsaved damage to Colossus and a confusion. Clobbered him right in the head. The Sentinel activates again. He loses a hit point, sending him down to 5 because of his bleeding. He then successfully does a heal on himself, which heals him a hit point and removes the bleeding. Then he critically passes his raised shield, so now he's maxed out at a save of 8. He then charges into Colossus, and Colossus, this is what I rolled to save. He took 4 hits, and he critically saved 3 of them. So Colossus was not injured at all, and unfortunately the Sentinel saved the 1 hit that Colossus did on him. Nightcrawler and Storm are going to sit back a little bit again, because Nightcrawler is going to be their buffer if he gets through Colossus, if the Sentinel gets through Colossus. Cyclops shoots the Sentinel, removes 1 hit point unsaved from him, and gives him agony, which is nice. Must have fried his systems. But an odd thing happened when we were trying to do willpower checks for Jean Grey and Professor Xavier. They both critically failed a power. So Professor X gave Colossus a protect, and then he critically failed a time slip, and Jean Grey gave Colossus a time slip and then critically failed an aura on Nightcrawler. So I can only assume the Sentinel is emitting some sort of anti-psionic field or something. Now, Colossus charges into the Sentinel, and unfortunately with a save of 8 currently, the Sentinel shrugs off all the damage, but he also does nothing to Colossus in the meantime, so we gotta move the Sentinel back 2 inches. So they're just slugging it out right now. The Sentinel activates again. He tries to raise his shields and does not get it critically this time, so now his save is a 7 instead of an 8. It caps out at 8. And then he did Missile on Colossus and did 1 damage on him, unsavable by any means. Finally, he charges into poor Colossus, and Colossus is removed from the board even after his time slip. It was 2 unsaved damage, and then the time slip only saved 1 of them. So Colossus is now dead. Our front lines are all up to Nightcrawler now. Alright, it's the X-Men side, and I really am starting to think this Sentinel is completely impervious. Storm shoots him twice, and he saves it. Cyclops shoots him twice, and he saves it. Jean Grey is able to put a aura on Nightcrawler, and then she heals Professor X by 1, and then finally Professor X puts a protect and a time slip on Nightcrawler and sends him on his way, and then he tries to mind control Storm to make her shoot again and failed that. So this is turning south pretty quick here. It's been a while since I showed some rolls. So these are the aura results for Nightcrawler. The Sentinel ignores the confusion, and the 3 is a -1 fight skill for the Sentinel, so that's actually not too bad. Nightcrawler has a fight skill of 6. He gets 1 hit. The Sentinel is a 7, unfortunately, and he passes it. The Sentinel is getting 4 attacks back on a 6. He actually hits all of them because the one's a critical. And poor Nightcrawler, let's see what he's got. Oh my god. Nightcrawler's a 5 after the... no, he's actually a 6. So one of these passes, including the protect, he's a 6. And then he's going to time slip one of these, but 2 of them still go through. Poor Nightcrawler. Let's see what the 2 crushing wound chart rolls are for poor Nightcrawler. A 6 and a 10. Nightcrawler is just murdered. The 10 is an extra damage. The Sentinel activated next. He moved up to that outer wall right here, and he replenished his protect, and then he did a missile from one of his hand beams into Professor X and rolled a wound chart roll of blinded onto Professor X. So Professor X is going to lose his next turn. He then made the 7-inch charge with a critical 10 down into Jean Grey, and luckily she saved all but 1 of the damage, and then she also received a head trauma, a -2 to her willpower, which is going to hurt. Now this is really our last stand here, because this guy's got 5 more hit points, and he's currently at a 7 save. Alright, on the X-Men's turn, Professor X can only move because he's blinded. He moves back and removes the blinded token. Storm strikes the Sentinel with lightning, dealing him 1 unsaved damage, and she also gives him a -2 movement, which is not super helpful. Jean Grey successfully psychically missiles him and deals 1 damage with no other results, but that's still 1 unsavable damage. And then Cyclops shoots him twice, and actually hit him 3 times with a critical hit, and the Sentinel failed 1 of them, and the Sentinel took 1 damage and -2 fight skill. So if you see back there, the Sentinel is now down to 2 damage, if you can see that. 2 damage on the Sentinel, but it may still be too late for the X-Men. The Sentinel's having a rough turn. He tried to heal himself and failed, and he tried to raise his shields and failed. So with only 2 hit points left, his systems must be failing him. He then charges Storm, and he's able to just straight up kill Storm and she did nothing back to him. Alright, Jean Grey is going to try to do a missile, psychic missile on him, and she does not get it with a 9. I think I'm going to go ahead and remove her second to last hit point and fudge it into a success. Let's do a wound chart roll. Of a 10! That's fantastic. That is definitely a damage. I'll have to look up and see if it's a damage and a wound chart roll. Yes, so it actually is a damage and a wound chart roll. So wound chart on her is a 5, which is not going to impact them much. I'll look it up in a minute. Alright, now that I'm recording all this in one take, Professor X is going to try and beat Cyclops' willpower and control him. He needs a 6 or higher. He gets a 1, so that's no good. Now he's going to do Time Slip on Jean Grey. Since she's in the front line, he gets that. And then also a Protect on Jean Grey, and he gets that. So that's the end of their action, and the Sentinel is now going to activate again. The Sentinel's going to try to heal himself. He's got a willpower of 6 now after an injury, and he's going to try to protect himself. And he does get the Protect off. That's +2 save. Now he's going to charge Jean Grey. He needs a 4, and he gets a 9. Our boy the Sentinel is a Fight Skill 6 now after some damages. And he gets only 1 regular hit and 1 critical. So 2 of these don't count. The miss will go with the 1. And Jean Grey is a 3, but she's got Protect, so she's a 5. And she fails 2 of them. She can Time Slip, but it's still going to kill her. Let's see what she does. She's Fight Skill 5. She does nothing, and Jean Grey is now dead. Alright, it's the X-Men's turn. We got Professor X, and we've got Cyclops. Let's go ahead with Professor X. Let's give Cyclops a, let's give him, Professor X a Protect. He's got a willpower 8, so he's got that. And now he's going to give Time Slip to Cyclops with a 5, and he got that. Now he's going to try to Mind Control Cyclops with a 6 or higher, and he fails. As we stated before, the Sentinel is now a 6, so Cyclops is going to aim. He needs 7s, but it becomes 5s. He hit twice, and that 9 he actually has piercing, so that's going to be at -1 save. The Sentinel is currently at 7, so this makes it a 6. And it's a critical save, so it doesn't really matter regardless. That sucks. So now it is going to be the Sentinel's turn once again. I don't know if we're going to win this. Alright, let's get the rolls for the Sentinel. So he's a willpower 6 now. He's going to try to heal. He fails. He's going to try to do Protect again. And he fails at that as well, so he no longer has the Protect. And now he's going to charge poor Professor X. A 7. So he's in. And he gets 5 attacks on the charge. Alright. Fight skill 6. So he ends up missing 1 because of the critical. And Professor X is a 3 plus 2 is 5. And Professor X is dead because he only had 2 hit points left. Professor X fights back on a 5. He fails. Now it's only Cyclops versus the Sentinel. Alright, we'll see if Cyclops, the leader of the X-Men, has what it takes to take down the Sentinel before he's horribly murdered. Sentinel's dex of 6, so he needs 7s. He's going to aim. That puts him at 5s. 1 piercing and 1 regular hit. So the Sentinel now is a save of 5, but this will be treated as a save of 4. Fail. Now this needs to be a critical or the Sentinel's dead. Save of 5. Saved that one, but it's enough to kill him. So the Sentinel is killed, and Cyclops and the X-Men are victorious, even if it took the entire X-Men team to take it down. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed that. I will see you later.